I didn't sleep for like 6 months. I'll sleep if I drink alcohol and in excess. So it's more like I'm blacking out. It's not really sleeping. So I started looking for options. Then people are like, ukikunywa hii, unalala tu, you know. So I'll drink alcohol and tough liquor, not beer, like hard liquor, so that I can fall asleep. And so that I can somehow numb the pain I was also feeling within me. Now, my behaviors became more erratic. I became even worse in drinking. I'll run away from home for like 4 days. My parents don't know where I am. Now, at that point, I think I started even smoking weed. I started even smoking cigarettes at that point. I became a shell, what people say, a shell of a person. Now I know what it means to be a shell of a person because I didn't have any purpose. Then I started seeing people, like so many people in this compound, and they looked like they're not okay. You know, like I was like, hold up. Have you guys taken me to a mental institution? You know, I was so pissed. I was like, hold up, you can't have taken me to a mental institution. I'm not that bad. Am I that bad? You know, am I crazy? You know, it got to a point, I couldn't even talk to them. I just went, I looked for the toilet, then I locked myself inside, and then I just started crying. I was like, am I going mad? Am I going crazy? Like, why have I been brought here? Hi, hello, my name is Annabelle Nduta. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 18 years. I have been through everything: depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and actually attempting suicide at some point. So for 18 years, I knew I was not normal because I was very imaginative. I felt like I lived in my head. Like, I lived in my head with my cartoons because I loved cartoons. And I felt like the outside world kept judging me. So when I was in school, I would hear statements from teachers always saying that I think too much outside the box. In fact, most of the time, even in exams, the question asked versus the answer I give have totally no relation. Because for some reason, I overthought the answer. So I found myself failing, always being told, you make silly mistakes, you've not read the question. So I was always being told, read the question twice. In fact, at times the teacher will stand next to me so that they keep saying, read the question twice, because they can already see the answer I'm trying to pick. I have overthought. I have overthought what the question is asking. And that has been a struggle, even through campus. Oh my God. I've been through manic emotional disorders. And I can say that there's truly a light at the end of the tunnel for everyone who struggles with any sort of mental disorder. Because I can confidently say I've been able to overcome it. I've been able to live with the condition and live the best life and be the happiest and the most productive and the most imaginative and the most creative person, and just be myself. And there's no shame and there's no guilt. No one can guilt me and tell me, oh, you behave weirdly. I'm like, yes, I'm weird, and that's okay. Because I was created differently. And I'm here to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, everyone feels happy, everyone feels accepted, regardless of whatever mental condition that they may have. Mine is ADHD with anxiety disorder. There is no such thing as abnormal. We are all normal with our abnormalities. And so how I behave, it does not have to make sense to everyone, but it makes sense to me, and I function very well. I think I can say I do probably 95% of what everybody else does. So I wanted to show people that it is possible to also be happy, regardless of whatever you're going through, regardless of your genetic disposition, regardless of maybe it's stress that has caused extreme depression. No matter what you're going through in terms of your mental health, there is always another side. You can always be smiling, you can always be happy, because there are other ways to deal with life. And I don't want people to feel ashamed because they're going through something. I want people to own up to it and look for help and look for someone you can talk to. We need to be more compassionate. We need to be more loving. We need to be aware of what people are going through. You need to be kind to other people. I just don't want people to feel shame, because shame held me back for a very long time, feeling like I was not good enough, feeling like there's something wrong with my brain that I need to fix. And I did try to fix it, but it's unfixable, and that's okay, and that's normal, and that's what makes me me. And I want everyone to know that everyone has something that needs to be fixed in their brains. These days, depression has become so rampant. People are saying it like a joke, like, mi niko depressed. That's what everyone is saying around us. Everyone is like, siku hizi stress, maisha tu ni stress. Like, it's like when you have things smooth, you don't even believe that things are smooth, because you're so used to the stresses of life. People are suffering from miscarriages and getting depression after that. No one is thinking about, people just come and say sorry and then they leave, but they never think about your mental health afterwards, People are in relationships where they're dealing with narcissistic partners, or they themselves are the narcissistic partners who are trying to change, but they don't even know what's wrong with them. So it happens in everyday life. In every home, you'll find there's always one person struggling with mental health. But because we are a bit ignorant, but now at least we have this platform for that. Because we are ignorant, we don't take time to see what's going on around us. We are so absorbed in how am I going to survive, we forget how to live. So I'm here to say there's a way you can live. You don't have to survive all the time. So from when I was, let's say, around 8, 9, that's when I noticed a lot of teachers telling me to stop daydreaming, to read the question twice, It got to a point where my performance also became very unpredictable, because I'll feel very uncomfortable sitting in class and doing an exam for a whole hour. So I'll rush through the exam. And where my mind decides to switch off, from there it's just like guesswork. I'm just guessing the answers, just to finish so that I can leave. So I spent also a lot of time in the toilet, not necessarily inside the toilet, but outside washing my hands. So apparently I also have OCD. So I'll clean my hands a lot. And that was a way of me releasing the stress that I was feeling from the pressure of having to be in class all the time or seated for a long period of time. Before the age of 8 and 9, I probably don't remember much, but I know from around 8, 9, because when I was 9, that was when I first had a bit of a depressive episode. And I remember thinking of committing suicide at 9. But then I didn't go through with it. I was just curious, I think a little bit, because I was like, because I don't feel accepted in this world, like maybe the other world will be better, What will push me at that age was that I was very forgetful. So my parents would be a bit scolding, like they'll tell me to go get them a cup. By the time I get to the kitchen, I've forgotten. I bring a spoon. And then I bring the spoon. They're like, we asked you for a cup. Then I'm like, sorry. Then I go back. Then I'm like, I think they meant a plate. Then I think it's like I was so forgetful. And then also because of my performance going up and down, I felt too much pressure. I felt like I was disappointing them. I felt like, and because they really expected me to perform, because I was a very bright student. but it was not showing especially during the exam. It was showing during class time when I'm answering questions verbally, but when it came to write down on paper, it was like I was not the same person. Any moment that exerted pressure just made my brain, I got disoriented, forgetful. I'll feel a lot of anxiety, and then it's like my brain freezes and I can't remember the answers. I can't remember anything at that point. So because I constantly remember my parents telling me, you have so much potential. Why are you failing in school? So the next exam I try, I become the first or the second. I'm well excited. They're like, yes, no, you see, your potential has shown. Then the next exam comes, then because of the pressure of the last exam, because of how well I did, I'm like, oh, it's like I crash, I panic. I become the last or the second last. So my parents were also very frustrated, and I could feel their frustration. And so it got to a point I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to be here, like I'm in the wrong place, I'm constantly disappointing them, So every time they kept asking me, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know what happened. Then they'll see like, maybe I'm pretending, So around when I went to class 7, I was taken to boarding. I remember I only lasted 2 terms because I got extreme anxiety until I got ulcers. So now I had to be put on special foods. My parents had to keep coming and taking me to hospital. Like I got very funny illnesses. I was always sick like every 2 weeks. I started showing some weird symptoms. I wouldn't stay in class for more than 30 minutes. I always had to ask for permission to go to the toilet. But it's because I had so much energy, I couldn't sit down for long periods of time. So, and then I also found myself, every time I was trying to study, I'd fall asleep because in my mind that was boring. That's the most boring thing that anyone could ask me to do. So I'll just fall asleep like automatically, like I'm just writing and then I just fall asleep. But then at night, I'm not able to sleep because I fell asleep during preps. Anyways, I'll also find that I was very chatty, talking. I'll talk a lot and I'll talk very fast. So most people even did not understand what I was talking about. And I'll talk different topics. Like I'll jump from one topic to the other, to the other, to the other. So I was somehow very entertaining, but then I'll lose you in the process. Then I remember also when it came to writing like things like compositions, there was always a theme in which teachers expected you to follow. I never followed those themes. I'll write my own stories. So most of the time, when people are writing normal life stories, like how they went to a park and they saw animals, and then they went back home, I'll write how I went to the park, then the lion escaped through the cage, and then, and then it started chasing us. We found a zebra, we threw it to the lion. So most of my stories were just like really out of the box. And most of the time the teachers used to tell me, think within the box, think within, you've gone too far, like think within the box. Like this one just sounds like a lie. Like you need to think within the box. So I found myself now I will read other people's compositions. And then now it's like I'm copywriting what they wrote. Because now my stories are way out in out of the horizon. But I loved writing those stories. So I started writing them on the side for myself. Like those, as wild as I could find, like the wildest story that I could find, I'll write them for myself. And then now I had the practiced compositions for the teachers. So I think not being able to express myself through writing, to tell the story the way that I think of it, to tell the story like just how it's happening in my head, as exaggerated as it can be, because of always hearing that I'm thinking too much out of the box, or it sounds like a lie, I started withdrawing from writing those things. And now I'll write it for myself, but I'll be so scared for others to see it. So for many years until now, I'm still struggling a little bit, a lot, not a little bit, I'm struggling a lot. So until now, I write stories, but I keep them to myself because I'm afraid of what will the world say about it. You know, my story might sound like too much for them because already I was shown that my imagination is too much, you know. So I started holding back, and I've struggled for years to burst through that creative creative writing, the creative endeavor. It makes me emotional because I love to write, but I feel like I cannot share my writing to the world because there's still that voice. Okay, many voices, because it was just even inches. So there are many voices in my head that say that, like, whatever I'm writing has to conform to what the teacher is looking for. It cannot be my own original piece of art, you know? And it has really restricted me because I also used to write songs, but I've never shown anyone any song that I've written. It got to a point now my parents had to intervene and now help me. But now I did not know, when I was being asked, like, what's wrong? I really don't know what's wrong. I just know I don't like being in school. I don't like sleeping in school. I don't like staying in school. You know, now I'd already had a very negative idea of what school is like. Because to me, school meant suffering. School meant struggling. School meant it's like I'm a prisoner of my seat, and I don't want to be a prisoner of my seat, you know. I know when we went to class 8, I remember we sat down with my parents and they were like, okay, we can't keep driving you to school. It's so far. It's so far away. And it's a lot of fuel, like, to drive you to school. And at the moment, things are not okay, you know. So I was like, fine, I'll go back to boarding. But I went back to boarding on a special diet and all that stuff. And then the teachers were made aware that I could get depressed, so they need to be more gentle with me. And now they became a bit accepting of my many weird insha's and compositions. There's a teacher I actually used to write like almost every day. I write a composition and I'll be so excited to give the composition to him because he'll read it and he'll be like, wow, okay, that was so unexpected. Like, write a bit more. So I'll continue the story, you know. So it helped me also relieve that stress a little bit of class 8. But now my performance was still not good. My performance was still struggling. So now in class 8, even it became worse. One day I'll be the first one, the second one, the next I'll be the last one. It reached a point, now my mom was like, when she came for a parents-teacher meeting, we actually drew a graph and we planned on how I'm going to fail the next exam so that I can pass KCPE. Because we were like, if this is the trend, make sure you fail this one, because please, this one you cannot mess up. You cannot mess up the KCPE. So make sure you mess this one. This one you can do upper katikati. Like, we literally drew a graph. And I remember that and laugh, and I'm like, wow, okay. That must have been extremely weird for my mom, drawing a graph on how someone is going to fail in an exam so they can pass the next exam. So, and actually that's what happened. I failed that exam, but I passed my KCPE. So that gave me a bit of comfort, even as I went to high school, that at least I'm smart enough. Now, high school was another struggle altogether. The subjects are like triple what we are used to. I have to sit in class from, I don't know, 7 to, I don't know, at night, you know. I was constantly dashing to the toilet all the time, and the teachers used to keep saying the same thing that I had in primary school is the same thing I had in in high school. Like all the time I was being told, stop daydreaming, come back to class, like stop sleeping. So at some point now it started being, Annabelle, stand up. You know, like just stand up, just stand at the back of the class so that you can concentrate, you know. And I almost felt like I'm being attacked, because why is it always me? All these other students, why are you not? How come no one else is being told to pay attention? I'm the only one who's being told to pay attention in class. But I also struggled a lot, and especially when it came to Form 4. Because now here we are in Form 4, I have no notes. I have to read from Form 1 to Form 4, and I have no notes. so, so I struggled with these subjects that really need notes, like geography and business, because I had to read the textbooks. And that stressed me so much, I started getting into another depression when I was in Form 4. By the time I left, now the depression had become so much. Now it started showing after Form 4. Because when I was in school, it's like I was trying to like suppress it to be able to just get through it. Because I had noticed this pattern, it happened in class 8. You know, like this extreme anxiety, I'll get panic attacks, I'll go and hide myself. Sundays I wouldn't spend in class. I found an abandoned house that I'll go and jump through the window. I hope they don't hear this. I'll go jump through the window and go and just lie there the whole Sunday afternoon. Just sing and just do my own thing, because I felt the pressure was too much. But I think if I had not done that, I'd have broken down again. Our education system is difficult. I don't know how the CBC is going to turn out, but let me speak to the one that we've done, the 844. It did not promote uniqueness. It promoted uniformity, which for someone who does not really think normally or uniformly as everybody else, that led to a lot of alienation. And you know, a child receives. They receive what you give them. If you give them negativity, that's what they're going to receive. For me, I received a lot of judgment and a lot of, oh, your mind is out there. Oh, you're so dreamy. Oh, you think outside the box. Like thinking outside the box was labeled a bad thing, you know, until these days. Like, for example, like when I worked for an institution and they'll ask for an out-of-the-box answer, I wouldn't answer. I had the idea, but I'll be like, you're asking for something you don't want to hear. You know, because even in our institutions, even our work institutions, they'll ask for those ideas, but the highest possibility, they will not implement anything. It's like they were just asking you to kupima ufala, like how far can you go, you know? And then after you've thought out of the box, they'll be like, no, that is too much on our budget, and or that is impossible, or you know, they start giving you reasons why your thinking out of the box was wrong. So I think the education system and the teachers and even the parents, they need to be educated on how to deal with children who are out of the box thinkers. Let them be out of the box. Let them be as out of the box as they can. Then harness that talent, harness that gift, because it's a gift. Not many people can think out of the box. You wouldn't be watching today's cartoons if someone thought within the box. Someone had to think beyond and draw that cartoon and then bring it to you, and then it entertains you. So thinking within the box has never really brought the best innovations, but we need to allow children to think out of the box. And don't laugh at them. Don't laugh at their ideas, because you never know where that idea is heading to. Just encourage them. If you feel it's unrefined, just tell them, go and think about it a little bit more, then tell me what you come up with. What made me actually get diagnosed or go to hospital for diagnosis? After Form 4, I did get the depression, but it did not show up at the beginning. So I went to school after Form 4, the way we do ICDL. You were going to Nairobi to do ICDL, just to keep yourself busy before the results come out and you get to campus. Huh? As I was doing that, the depression started eating into me. There was nothing that was really that stressful, but I was just going deeper and deeper into depression. It felt like there was a dark cloud. You see, the way clouds form, and so they are gray, then they start getting darker. The more they come together, they become darker and darker. So it felt like that. It felt like things are just getting darker and darker and darker for me. One day when I was going home, I was at Kencom, that area of Kencom, and those buses, those KBS buses were passing by. I was actually trying to cross the road so that I can go to the other side and go and take matatus to go home. But as I stood there at Kencom, I felt like a dark cloud has just come over me. And the thing that I was thinking about was how I was going to end my life. Because I saw a bus and I saw myself jumping in front of the bus. Because I wanted to end it. I wanted to end this darkness that was just hovering around me. I couldn't see joy. I couldn't see anything good. I was just feeling like everything is sad. There was a lot of negative voices in my head. I always kept hearing, because even in ICDL, I was still being told to come back to class, like stop daydreaming, all those things. And then I think I was also getting closer to doing the exams for ICDL. And during my classes, because I realized this is not high school, so I can skip classes. I will skip classes because I was like, I'm tired of teachers telling me that. Like, I am an adult now. Okay, that was the idea. So I am an adult. So I used to skip classes. Now it got close to getting to the exams and I have no idea what we've been doing in class. It's like that also contributed to the pressure. So I remember wanting to commit suicide so bad. I just wanted to end it. But I kept seeing my mom, my dad, my brothers. I was like, I can't do that to them. Like, I can't do that to them. But the cloud was so heavy, I just broke down there. Like, I just started crying in the middle of the street. I don't even know whether I knelt down. I probably did, but I can't remember because it just felt like a darkness had come on me. I couldn't even see the people around me. So I gathered myself a little bit. I tried to call my friend who was in town. I knew she was working in town. I called her and I was like, come find me at Kencom. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I can't even move. It's like I was transfixed at that point, I just couldn't move. And I was trying to look around and see anything. Like, it was just darkness. It was just a lot of darkness. So she came in a hurry because she could hear I was crying like so much. You're not even breathing. I was hyperventilating. I think it was also a mixture of a panic attack or something. So she came quickly to my aid, and then she realized I can't go home in that state. Like, she couldn't put me in a matatu and expect me to get home because I was in such a state. I was a bit disoriented. I didn't even know where I was at that point. So she called my other friend whose mom works in town. So we called her and we told her that the mom needs to come and pick me and take me to their home. So the mom came and picked me from town. I never even met the mom, but she came and picked me and then she took me to their home. Luckily, their mom had gone through a depression. So she saw all the signs and symptoms of a depression. And then I remember when we got home, I went and stood at their balcony and I think she could see I was trying to throw myself. So she came and told me, no, just come in, come have supper, have some tea. She was trying to be friendly, but I was like, Now this is beyond, I've even been vulnerable to people I don't even know. You know, people have seen me cry. Not even my mind was like, people have seen me crying in Nairobi. Like they will even remember. But anyway, at that point, it felt like the worst thing that could happen to me, you know. So she asked me what's wrong. I didn't talk that day. But I told her I've not slept for 6 months. I was having nightmares. So I didn't like sleeping. I'll make sure that I'll sleep if I drink alcohol and in excess. So it's more like I'm blacking out. It's not really sleeping. Because if I sleep like this, so many images will come to my mind, on negative images. Like, I can't even explain them, just look like so many negative stuff going on in my head. So I didn't sleep for like 6 months, unless maybe 2 hours as I could black out here and there. Then I also started drinking a lot. When I was in ICDL, I started drinking because I realized I'm not sleeping. So I started looking for options. Then people are like, ukikunywa hii, unalala tu, you know. So I'll drink alcohol and tough liquor, not beer, like hard liquor, so that I can fall asleep. And so that I can somehow numb the pain I was also feeling within me, the anxiety that was eating at me. So the next day, the mom called my mom, and so she explained to her, I've been through this. I think your daughter is really depressed, and I think she needs to see a psychiatrist. So she gave her a recommendation. So she gave her, I think you've heard of Dr. Frank Jenga. He's the head psychiatrist in Kenya. He's the one who heads the psychiatrist. So we went and saw him 2-3 days later. Because now my mom, because she heard it's from someone who's been through it. And so the lady explained to her, like, she's behaving like she's not sleeping. Because she even tried to give me her sleeping pills. I took 2 of them, and I still did not sleep. So like I was totally, I don't even know how I was operating back then. So then after 2-3 days, my mom came, picked me. We went to see Dr. Frank, and now my dad also joined us. So when they took me, I remember the one I first saw was called Dr. Ann. And so she was like, you know, a psychiatrist tells you, now speak. Like, now tell me your story. She asks you a few questions, and then she's like waiting for you to tell her the rest. I talked. I think I talked for like 3 hours or 4 hours straight. And the story, I was talking so fast until I could see she's trying to like connect. Like, okay, what has she said? What has she said? Like, you know, she was trying to connect. She started with writing notes. After like 5 minutes, she was just seated looking at me. She was like, okay, now this one is just Amanda. I was just talking. And then I was talking fast, and I was jumping from one story to the other, to the other, to the other, you know. Eventually she was like, okay, we might give you a bit of medication for anxiety. Then you tell us how you're going to feel. So, you know, with medicine, especially mental illness, you can't go directly to something. It's not very direct because it could be an underlying cause of something else. So we first did some tests. They gave me a form to fill. I don't even think I finished filling it. I was already bored. But I suffered through it. Some of them, I think I was just guessing I was like, what would they want me to tell them, you know? So I gave them, so I was like, it could be anxiety. We'll give you something, then you tell us how you feel. So they gave me some medication. I did not react very well. I did not sleep literally the whole night, even worse than the way things were before. So I was just twitching on my bed the whole night. So the next day I was like, Mom, this is not working for me. So we went back. So when we went back, they were like, okay, let's not do medication. Let's first go through counseling so that we see what could be underlying. So I tried therapy. But I think it was so hard to get to the root cause through therapy because at times I didn't want to talk. I was not ready to be vulnerable. I was not ready. I'll cry, but I'll just tell the surface of the story. I wouldn't tell the deeper part of the story. I don't even think I knew what the deeper part was, but there was something deeper that was disturbing me. So eventually it's like the deeper we dug into my life story or what is going on, now my behaviors became more erratic. I became even worse in drinking. I'll run away from home for like 4 days. My parents don't know where I am. You know, like I switch off my phone. No one knows where I am. Now, at that point, I think I started even smoking weed. I started even smoking cigarettes at that point. Then, like, I just became, I don't know, I became a shell, what people say, a shell of a person. Now I know what it means to be a shell of a person, because I didn't have any purpose. I didn't feel like I had any purpose. And then I was feeling like the more they are digging, it's like they're just going to find a corpse. You know, it's like there's no point of this. So I even started skipping therapy. Most of the time I was like, nimeenda, but hakuna mahali nimeenda, because I'm like, I'm not seeing the point and purpose of this. So eventually, my parents, they saw, no, something is terribly wrong. So they tricked me. They told me they're taking me to see now the psychiatrist again, that they had suggested I see the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist had suggested to see me. So we went with them. Then this time they told me, the psychiatrist amesema hakuna kitu kubwa. Let us be the ones to speak to the psychiatrist. Now at that time, that's when they went out to Frank. Because now Anne was like, I think I need help here. This girl is showing so many signs of different disorders. I'm not really able to pinpoint which one it is. I need a second opinion. Then also my parents were like, we need another opinion. She's become wild. She's become wilder than she was before. So they went and talked to the doctor. I didn't know me. I just thought, I think even I was also high on weed, so I didn't think through that whole process. It was so easy to trick me. So after that, they came out and they were like, you know what? The doctor said you'll be fine. Let's go and see my friend somewhere. Na hapa Hurlingham, and then tukimwona, we'll go home. I went. We went with a vehicle, we went to Hurlingham, we went to a estate that looked like a home, maybe. Then we entered. Then I started seeing people, like so many people in this compound, and they looked like they're not okay. You know, like, I was like, hold up. Have you guys taken me to a mental institution? You know, I was so pissed. I was like, hold up, you can't have taken me to a mental institution. I'm not that bad. Am I that bad? You know, am I crazy? You know, it got to a point, I went and locked I couldn't even talk to them. I just went, I looked for the toilet, then I locked myself inside, and then I just started crying. I was like, am I going mad? Am I going crazy? Like, why have I been brought here? You know, like I was so confused. And then now the doctor came. Then when I got out, I was angry. I didn't even want to speak to my parents. So the doctor called me to the office. And then now that's when I met him. And he was like, I want to run some tests, but you'll have to sleep here. So I was like, is this a mental asset? Am I crazy? Like, now I started being concerned, like, am I crazy? Like, am I a mental case? Like, what's going on? And I was like, no. It's just that we need to follow up a little bit before we give you medication. And we feel like being separated from the home place, where your environment might give us a clearer image of what's going on. So I was like, so I'm not going to be injected with anything, you know, the way we see on movies. So I thought they are going to come and inject and put wires on my head. I was so ready. I was like, you know what? Now this is the end of me. I'm typically an experiment now. I am ready to be an experiment. So, so they were like, no, we're just going to observe you. You just be yourself. We just want you to be yourself, without your parents' interference, without feeling nothing. Just be yourself. Just assume you're not here. Just be yourself. So it's like, okay, fine. So they asked what drugs I use. I was like, alcohol. Then what else? I was like, cigarettes. Now you're saying it in a low tone. The volume is just going down. You're like, alcohol. What else? Cigarettes. What else? Nothing else. You're sure? Weed. You know, so I was like, so he was like, thank you for being honest, thank you for being honest. So they took some urine samples. I think they were just testing everything, plus the weed. So so they took it. So I stayed there for 1.5 weeks. But I always said that those were the best 1.5 weeks of my life. Those were the best 1.5. Okay, I've had now more happy moments, but if I'm told to pinpoint the happiest moments of my life, where they started, I think they started in those 1.5 weeks, because they allowed me to be myself. So every day, even the nurses will be like, be yourself. So I'll go to the basketball court and play and play and play for like half the day. I just come back to eat. Then I take the badminton bat. Then I hit the bat on this side. Then I try and run to the other side so that I can catch that thing. I don't know what it's called. Even I've forgotten the name. I'll run on the other side. So I try to hit it back. So that I run again to this other side. And so so I was very playful. I played 24/7. The parts that were boring were the therapy parts, because I had to sit down. So I was so fidgety, like we'll sit down and I'll just be like, I want to move, I want to go. Then I'll keep asking, can I go to the toilet? They're like, okay, but they were without judgment. It was not like it's not like I'm like, kwa nini unashinda ukienda choo? They were like, yeah, sure. Of course it was part of the observing process. So I even they tried to make me do a puzzle. They first tried with a children's puzzle. Of course, I did that one extremely fast. Then it got a little bit more complicated. Then they started seeing me standing on top of the table, climbing the table. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I'll be like, I'm throwing those. I'm like, I don't want, like, you're taking too much of my mental. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to try this anymore. It's confusing. Like, those 1,000 pieces. Until today, I've never done any of those. Then they tried to make me play draft. I'll just flip the table in the process because I'm frustrated at how long it's taking to finish the game. So yeah, after the 1.5 weeks, they came and brought a tablet to me. So the doctor was like, I want you to start on this pill, and then you tell me how you're going to feel. So for the 1.5 weeks, my mom used to come and visit. When my dad used to come and visit, they used to take turns. They come and visit. So I remember that day it's my mom who came. And after taking the tablet early in the morning, she came at around maybe 11 or 10. And she found me seated under a tree. So, so I was looking at the leaves fall from the tree. And I was watching a leaf fall like one. I watch it until it falls to the ground. Then I watch another one. I was just watching, and then I was watching the squirrels, because it had a bit of nature, I'd watch the wind blow the trees. So my mom came and sat there, and I was so fascinated. I think I was probably, my mouth was wide open, because I was like, I look like someone who's just seen something new. So my mom came and sat next to me. She was like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm fine. Then I was like, Mom, is this how normal people think? So at first, she was worried. She was like, what do you mean? Then I was like, I'm thinking one thought at a time for the first time in my life. Like I can watch a leaf fall without being distracted with something else. You know, I can watch ants follow the trail without thinking, or jumping up and going to do something else. I can listen to you without, like what you're saying, without my mind wandering off to something else. You know, like I'm having one thought at a time. So she was like, is that not how you think? Like, you know, like that's how we think. Like, I think one thing at a time. So I was like, Mom, I think 5 things at a time. At any given point, I'm thinking about 5 totally different things. And now I'm thinking one thing at a time. I'm even wondering how I used to do it 5 things at a time, because now I'm thinking one thing at a time. So I think she went and told the doctor, I think that's her problem. This is the first time she's thought one thing at a time. I even told the doctor, I was like, I've never thought one thing at a time. Is this how all of you think? I want to think like all of you. You know, like after some time, it got boring. I wanted to go back to my 5 thoughts at a time. So I was fascinated by the fact that people concentrate on one thing. So I was able to try the puzzle again without getting so frustrated. I was still getting frustrated, but at least not after 1 minute of just looking at it. So now I was a bit more patient. So now that's when they diagnosed me with ADHD. At that time, it was with manic depression, because I was really depressed. So ADHD in full is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It is when your thought, the neurons or the neurotransmitting nerves in your brain, is like they drop the information halfway. They don't connect entirely. So what this medication did, it connected the neurons and those transmitting nerves in a way that I can finish a thought process. Most of the time, by the time it was halfway, because there's that gap, another thought has fallen through, and then this one was just left hanging. Like, that's why I'll start a statement halfway, I'm talking about something else. And it was not even intentional, it just happened, you know. So it was about being able to follow through the thought process. Like, it was able to help me now. If I'm going to think one thing, if I want to do something, if I want to go to the kitchen and take a cup, I'll actually remember it's a cup. I won't get to the kitchen and then I remember, but I wanted a spoon, and yet my mom is the one who had sent me the cup. Then because the thought got halfway, I had hijacked halfway, and I wanted the spoon, I end up taking the spoon to her. Then she's like, that's not what I asked for. I asked for a cup, you know. So ADHD it can come with many other disorders. For me, it came with the depression, the manic depression and anxiety. So I'll get a lot of panic attacks, anxiety attacks. Like the one I think I got in town was a serious anxiety attack, because I honestly thought I was even dying on the street by the time I was calling my friend. So for me, since then, I took the medication for 2 years, 1.5. Then I weaned myself off, because again, I got tired of thinking one thought at a time. And then I was like, you know what? I think I can find a way to manage this without necessarily being on medication, because now the medication had a bit of side effects. So it made me extremely tired. It made my heart rate was extremely high, you know, like I was just not functioning. I had a lot of water retention, so I looked like I was gaining weight, but it's just like water retention in my body, you know. So at some point I was like, no, there has to be another way to do this without necessarily messing with my hormonal and everything, because it's a hormonal thing. At times it's caused by hormonal imbalance, or like the dopamine, it drops extremely. So it helps boost the dopamine, you know. So I was like, no, there has to be another way. I don't want to cause a lot of health implications on myself or to be too dependent on this medication for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm 18, 19. Like, how am I going to take this medication for like 40 years, you know? Like, I have so many years to come. I have to find a way to not take the medication and still function. I finished campus really well, but by the time I was like in second year, I'd stopped taking the medication. So now I had to try the things that had been taught in therapy. I started trying them. I started trying to do those things for myself. The cognitive behavioral theories, the capturing your thoughts and your emotions, you know, but they were not really helping me so much because I still found myself. Another thing with ADHD, it can make you, you have a problem with regulating your emotions. There's a lot of emotional dysregulation because again, the thought processes are not linking. So neither are your emotional processes. You know, emotions will help you think. So there's a big disconnect between your emotions and your thinking, and you're behaving like when I'm mad, I'm extremely mad. When I'm happy, I'm extremely happy. Then it's like you can't even predict. Like I'm high and I'm low, like I'm just everywhere. I started even trying meditation. So that's when I tried and not the Kenyan definition of meditation. I mean like let's say the Buddhist kind of meditation where you sit down and you try and calm your thoughts and you try and bring them, like it's not even calming or shutting them down. It's like you're detaching yourself from them so that you can observe them. Now, because I'd stopped taking the med. When I was taking the medication, that was so easy because I was thinking one thought at a time. But when I stopped taking the medication, it became extremely difficult because my mind went back to being jumpy. So I had to practice this over a long period of time. And I had to practice different kinds of meditation to help me until I find something that works for me. Then I found myself on a journey of finding on how to heal your inner child. I came to realize most of the issues that I blame ADHD for, they're not really ADHD related. They're just things that I've gone through as a child and I've believed because of the things I've been told about myself, you know? So I've believed them, and so I'm not able to function or to do what I want because I believe those things still. My child inside still believes those things. Those voices still run in my head, you know, and then you find there's so many things that hurt and you know, like when relationships end, when you feel you're not even understood even in a relationship, when you feel like this person just judges you for just being, you know, I'm used to being told I'm weird, but now, you know, when someone who's supposed to understand you and do life with you keeps on telling you you're weird, you start questioning yourself. You start trying now to behave like a non-weird person. And the more you try, the more it's not fitting in your behavior because that's not you. Then there was a bit of denial because at some point I was like, I don't have ADHD, I'm fine. Because especially after I was able to finish my degree and then I enrolled to do my master's. Just out of curiosity of how far I was going to take my concentration. I was not doing it because I think, okay, there's a bit of, I wanted to feel like I've achieved something. Like I wanted to prove to myself that I have conquered it. You know, I have conquered it. I've gotten out of it. It was a bit of denial. So I went and did a master's degree. So I completed it in 2 years. But still, I felt like I'm not worth it. I was trying to use, because in my education, I'd struggled so much and I'd been told so much about my weirdness and my lack of concentration. And then, you know, now when you know you have a mental disorder, you also now start stigmatizing yourself, you know, because you're like, oh, I'm doing this because of ADHD. You know, you start feeling, then you get frustrated with yourself, and yet it's something you cannot really control. I completed the master's and I still felt, no, there's still something missing. At some point, I almost went for PhD just to prove to myself that I can concentrate. Luckily, life got in the way, so I didn't get that far. I did not get that far. But it was a way of trying to prove to people, I'm normal, I'm normal. And it's not like I'm so abnormal. Even you wouldn't know I have ADHD on the streets, you know. And then another thing is that at times I'll tell people, like, I have ADHD, and then they'll look at me like, so you are crazy. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. Like, that is a totally different, like, you wouldn't even know I have it, you know. So, like, a lot of the children in this generation might find themselves getting these mental health issues because they've been exposed to too much information. So their mind already is very scattered. Their mind is all over the place. So I will not be surprised a few years from now, the rate of ADHD will have risen so much, and it's because the children have been exposed to so much. So their brain has already, it has adapted to being scattered all the time. So with mental illness, it's never black and white. It's never really black and white. Like, it's never, things are never what they seem to be. So you can find you have triggers from your childhood, from a statement that your mother or your father said. They probably thought you never had it. You know, they probably thought, like, it's not a big deal, they'll outgrow it. Or maybe it was something that even them they were told when they were children, so they're just repeating the same thing that they've had since they were children. So you find that a lot of the mental illness that we have, a lot of the depression that we have, a lot of the anxiety that we have is because of triggers that are within our childhood traumas. And a trauma does not have to be a big thing, I was in a plane crash, I was in a car crash, you know, it does not have to be a big thing. Yes, those are big things, but traumas are even small things, words that people say to you when you're a child, things that people keep pinpointing. Like, we really need to get a program where people can be vulnerable and open and talk about their childhood. And one of the things that I've found has worked for me is writing down. I take segments of my life and I write down how I felt about that area in my life. Did I feel accepted? Were there statements that were made? Do I live by those statements? Because those statements you hear as a child, they form your belief patterns as an adult. You see those funny statements that a parent can say, ati, well, utapendwa na mtu. You think they are small statements, but that child will grow up knowing that they are not loved by anyone, including you, and yet you're doing everything. You're providing, those statements, especially if you keep saying them, or when you say them at their moment of low, when they're at their lowest point. When you say a statement like when a child is really sad, maybe they performed poorly, and they're really beating themselves up about it, you know. And then you say, you know, you're very useless. How can you do this? That statement will stick. And that is what that child will grow. Because I found I had a lot of statements from my childhood. As I have been uncovering my inner child, as I've been uncovering my triggers, because those are triggers, I've realized most of them have come from childhood, from things I've been told, things I have had. So you start behaving in a manner that it looks crazy because you're trying to prove otherwise, and yet you have nothing to prove. We are not here in this life to prove anything. We are here to live it to the fullest. It doesn't matter how that looks like. It could be jumping off cliffs with a parachute, who cares? You know, just live your life to the fullest. And so I have created a program where I want people to dive into their inner child, to dive into knowing what are those triggers. Because even when you're being stressed out right now about something, maybe in your home environment, if you sit down and ask yourself, what happened in my childhood that is making me do this? Like, you'll find most women are perfectionists in the home. They clean up. They don't want dirt everywhere. They're like, chukua vitu, hapana, usipake uchafu, you know. But it's because their parents were like, they're always telling them to clean. Like, there's no room for spilling things, and I am guilty for that. So what helped me work on my inner child was because I noticed I was not treating my child the way I wanted to be treated as a child. So I decided I'm going to change. And everything is a work in progress. That has been like 3 years of just trying and working and falling back to old patterns, and then reminding yourself that you need to get back on the wagon of positive change. Then you go and continue and you keep trying, you know. But that awareness by itself has given me a lot of peace and has made me enjoy motherhood.